And he told a story of how the first day that Bruce had inherited this particular partner's account, and this is a few years back now, and he came into the partner's business, into the office, and he sat down in front of the managing director and he said, I'm your new channel account manager, and we've got some big plans this year. We're going to make a major push into this particular market area, and we've got some new applications, and we're going to be running a very big marketing campaign. And so what we need from you is to train a couple of your salespeople in this special area so they can become what we call peaked sales reps. And we need to get some of your technical people trained as well. And we need you to allocate a section of your office space for a demonstration area. So when we bring all these leads through your business, you can show them the product. And what happened next is quite extraordinary. The managing director told me that he leaned over the desk and he grabbed Bruce by the front of his shirt and he pulled him in close and he said, now you listen to me. This is my business. Can you imagine that situation? I'm sure it's not every day your channel sales people go out there and have partners actually grab them by the front of the shirt. So the managing director went on to say that later, after Bruce learned to listen, and that was probably a tough job to train him to do that, the Bruce became the best channel guy that they'd ever had, and his ideas really did help them to grow and make profit. But the point here, of course, is it doesn't matter how much you know or how good your ideas are. Unless you win the right to be heard by your partners, your ideas are just worth nothing. So the conclusion is simply having a good story to tell doesn't get partners to do what we want them to do. So you've got a dilemma. The dilemma is you've got a great story to tell, but partners don't always want to take your advice. And this is the same problem that's encountered by salespeople in every walk of life. Just because you've got a great product or a good story, your customer or partner in this case doesn't whack themselves on the side of the head and say, I've been a fool, of course I should go and do this, and immediately make a buying or investment decision. So how do you get partners to accept that what you want them to do is in their own interests? It's just like direct sales, where you're selling products and service. And here there's a process too for selling change and investment to partners. I call it the partnering influence process. And I've got a graphic here of a mountain because it really is like climbing a mountain. The bottom of the mountain is the initial contact with a partner to introduce a new change or investment. And the top is productive execution and investment by that partner. Now, you of course know all about your products and markets, so you're an expert. And you've worked with lots of different partners, so you've seen the path to success. So you can climb this mountain every day, and you can go up the steep way, up the sheer rock face. But your partner might be new to your story. So simply telling them the value proposition doesn't get them to the top. If you try to drag your average, slightly overweight, middle-aged Australian VAR business manager right up the sheer rock face, they're going to fall off. So you have to take them through a path of change that they can manage for themselves. So we're going to briefly look at the steps in this path which are shown here. The first step is what I call the pre-approach stage, and it's really about, in a macro sense, finding the right partners to work with. We talked about partner selection and screening earlier in the series, and so not only does this help you find the right partners, it'll tell you what you might need to change to make your existing partners more successful as well. Approach and opening is about establishing some initial interest, so having that good opening story to tell, just like Bruce did before. The idea is to introduce a topic of desired change, but without trying to tell the whole story straight away. So your objective is to have the partner want to explore the issue with you further. On the interpersonal level, this step's about establishing some business rapport, not necessarily friendship type rapport, but equal business status, and creating enough interest to go further. Now, because you may not know the partner too well at this opening stage, the value proposition here has to be short and compelling, and it's likely to be fairly general or generic. And that means, of course, that it can be used with lots of smaller partners or similar partners. And this is what a lot of vendors seem to think that their value proposition is. But it's just the beginning. It's just a story at this stage. The investigation and value awareness stage is really the heart of the process. It's about understanding the partner's personal and business drivers that might motivate them to initiate change. And it's about asking the right questions to get the partners thinking about the need for change. Of course, by asking questions, that prompts partners to figure out for themselves the implications of problems or opportunities they might have. And that's what I call change momentum. So going back to the mountain guide analogy, this is about getting some speed up the mountain. So asking the right questions will help them figure out for themselves. We often say that man owns that which he creates. And of course, the same for women too, obviously. So in this context, what this means is that the skilled channel sales guy asks the right questions of partners to help them figure out the potential costs and benefits of investing in the vendor. And that way the partner gets to own the story. And if they own the story, they're going to own the execution of the plan as well. So in essence, many of you will recognize that this is really just the consultative sales process. It's really the same as any other business-to-business value selling. It's just that in this case, it's about selling change, focus and investment rather than the product. Because, of course, resellers don't buy products from vendors, although many vendors seem to think they do. In reality, resellers only pass these products on to the end user. In reality, the reseller partner is buying the opportunity to make money, and vendors are selling change, focus and investment. Only when the investigation has been thoroughly done will you be able to craft a unique value proposition, and at that point you'll have real impact on the partner. So it's an ideal time to propose a specific course of action. Of course, if you're dealing with hundreds of small partners, it's hard to do this for each one, but of course I'm sure Joby can help you out with that kind of thing. But you can still go through this whole exercise and investigate and understand the partner's needs and be prepared for that way when you put your value propositions out there, you're going to have a higher percentage of partners who will actually execute. Gaining commitments is obvious. The action here, it's all about getting action. And if you've completed the earlier stages of the process, by this point you know what to ask for, who to ask it from, and these are not always simple questions. So in a lengthy and complex influencing cycle, the channel salesperson might need to do this many times for points of agreement along the way, and with individual stakeholders inside the partner's organization who share part of the overall decision. And finally, implementing and managing, this is about keeping things on track. If the change is long and hard, the partner might need to be reminded several times about the value of the goal that you're both seeking and the value you're already delivering to them. So it's important to review progress and celebrate success. In summary, the value of this partnering influence process is as much for your partner as it is for you. You're helping them to get to the top of the mountain with you rather than trying to force your message down their throats. So, as I said, a thorough investigation really is the heart of this process. So the question is, how well do you really know your partners? How well do your channel salespeople know their partners? Most vendors, and we've actually researched this question by asking partners, most vendors tend to focus their conversations on their own product. But how do you know how your partners actually make money? What are their positioning and competitive position? What markets are they interested in? What lines of business do they have? What's their track record, their installed base? Who are their competitors? What other partnerships have they got? What are their priorities? What are they trying to achieve? Their business drivers? What are their problems, their needs? What would they call what I call their hot buttons, the few things they're really most interested in? What are their fears and hopes and personal goals as well? And how do they operate? What's their structure and staffing and decision-making processes? What resources have they got? How do they plan? What's their commitment to quality? And lots more. So at this stage, we've got the partner on board and we've got a well-founded opening value proposition. And we've investigated them and understood and crafted a unique, specific value proposition, and have gained a commitment to invest and execute. But still, that's not all. Lots of good plans simply sit on shelves gathering dust. So what's the broader picture for keeping partners focused on and committed to execute? Well, I've heard before, and maybe you've heard too, that one definition of madness is doing the same things and expecting a different result. So it stands to reason that if you want to change the partnering outcomes that you have, you ultimately have to change partnering behavior. And in order to do that through the channel, to change business results, it stands to reason that you've got to change partner behaviors. And this doesn't happen overnight. So how can that be achieved? Well, there are a few levers or ways of influencing partners that you have available to you. One way is you can drive your partners to some degree through the targets you set. Some partners will respond to targets, and just like when a manager sets a sales target for one of their employees, it influences some people, and if the target's too high, it might influence them to go away. But usually targets can be very motivating. You can also influence partner behavior and by controlling the allocation of resources. So that could include resources like special bid discounts or technical resources, or and your managers no doubt do this sort of thing to you too through the stick and carrot approach. In effect, you do the same to partners, so incentives, market development funds, partner awards, etc. And you influence partners also through the plans and processes that you put in place. Some vendors are really good at planning with partners and continually following up to see that partners are doing what they say they're going to do. Salespeople who review partner plans are much more likely to get partners who actually do what they plan to do. And I like to say, if you don't review your partners, you're simply teaching them to ignore you. So you've got a few levers that you can pull in an attempt to influence partner behavior. But ultimately, partners will behave according to their perception of the relationship they have with your company and with you, and also the degree of trust between you. And this is about attitude. It's about a sound partnering culture, if you like, existing between the two organizations. So if you're not constantly pulling the levers of incentives, of plans and processes, partners will still behave according to the way they perceive the overall relationship to be between your company and their organization. They've got their own sense of what they believe to be right or wrong, and as soon as you take your hands off these other levers, they'll just go back and revert to that. Now, it takes time to change these attitudes. If your company's not well regarded in the market, it's going to take time to get them to think of you as a channel-centric, channel-friendly vendor. And the only way to do this is to change over time. In fact, the partners' attitudes have to change. If you are remaining consistent and working with them in a fair way, a meticulous and well-organized way, then they'll begin to think of you differently. So it's about how you work with them over time, and it's also about how you engage with partners, the degree to which you understand their business. So having the best programs and plans in the world will mean nothing if your channel salespeople don't have the skills to engage the partner in a trusted relationship.